Let me read to you a passage from the first chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, verses 1 to 17. It's the Gospel for the 17th of December, just before Christmas. St. Matthew writes, "A record of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, Judah the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar, Perez the father of Hezron, Hezron the father of Ram, Ram the father of Aminadab, Aminadab the father of Nahshon, Nahshon the father of Salmon, Salmon the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab, Boaz the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth, Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother had been Uriah's wife, Solomon the father of Rehoboam, Rehoboam the father of Abijah, Abijah the father of Asa, Asa the father of Jehoshaphat, Jehoshaphat the father of Jehoram, Jehoram the father of Uzziah, Uzziah the father of Jotham, Jotham the father of Ahaz, Ahaz the father of Hezekiah, Hezekiah the father of Manasseh, Manasseh the father of Ammon, Ammon the father of Josiah, and Josiah the father of Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the exile to Babylon. After the exile to Babylon, Jeconiah was the father of Shealtiel, Shealtiel was the father of Zerubbabel, Zerubbabel the father of Abiud, Abiud the father of Eliakim, Eliakim the father of Adzor, Adzor the father of Zadok, Zadok the father of Achim, Achim the father of Eliud, Eliud the father of Eleazar, Eleazar the father of Mathan, Mathan the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. Thus there were 14 generations in all, from Abraham to David, 14 from David to the exile to Babylon, and 14 from the exile to Christ." That's from Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 to 17. I would suggest that that speaks to us of the humanity of Jesus Christ. In giving us a genealogy of Jesus Christ at the outset of his account, and Luke provides us with one traced along a different line, Matthew shows that Christ was thoroughly man. Consider Pilate's response to Jesus as described in the Gospel of St. John. He asked Jesus, "You are a king then?" Thereupon our Lord said, "Yes, but only in a certain sense. I am a king," he said. "This is why I was born, and why I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth." John chapter 18, verse 37. So at his trial, Jesus said to the procurator that he had come into the world. What did Pilate make of this? Did he wonder about who this Jesus might be? Certainly, despite Christ's declaration of some kind of kingship, he declared to the Jews that "I find no guilt in him." But when the Jews fired back that Jesus must die because he has made himself the Son of God, John chapter 19, verse 7, Pilate, we read, feared them all. He went straight back to Jesus and asked him, "Where are you from?" Pilate's fear may have been the fear of being reported to Rome for insensitivity towards the religious laws of the people he was governing. It could have been, though, a superstitious fear of laying his hand on some supernatural being before him, a son of the gods in the form of a man. It is plain that he had already begun to admire the man who had been brought into his presence. He was good, this Jesus, and in respect to the charges, guiltless, and Pilate said so. Matthew gives us another detail. that Pilate received a message from his wife warning him not to lay a finger on that just man. She had had a very anxious dream about him. Matthew chapter 27 verse 19. Now I mentioned Pilate simply to highlight a tendency that would emerge in some quarters, which was to think that despite what was plain and obvious, Christ was not himself human and thoroughly of our flesh. So serious was this that, and so contrary to the reality, that John gave it special emphasis at the very outset of his gospel. The Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. Chapter 1 verse 14. In the first of his letters, John states that every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is of God. John 1, the first letter of St. John, chapter 4, verse 2. In the passage of our gospel today, Matthew is making it plain that Jesus Christ was flesh of our flesh and bone of our bone. He had the DNA of a people with its blood flowing through his veins. Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, was the son of David and the son of Abraham. He was, like all of us, a descendant of Adam and Eve. He is our brother and in every way was human. The one massive difference from our humanity is that in his case it was not wounded and deformed by sin. It was perfect and unsoiled because the person of Jesus was divine. Christ's humanity was thus magnificent and most sacred. He was a most magnificent man, but truly man nevertheless. He did come from heaven in his person, but as man and born of the Virgin Mary, he had the elements of the human race and of the chosen people before him flowing through and making up his humanity. So as we read the account of Christ's genealogy as presented by Matthew, let us appreciate anew the wonder of the incarnation. Let us always bear in mind that this Jesus, who was and is divine, was thoroughly human, thoroughly man. This meant that in every way he could represent us in the great work of making up for the sins of the world. This brings us to the next point we are reminded of by the genealogy of St. Matthew that I read earlier. The man Jesus is the Christ. He is the one who was coming, the promised one, the Messiah. He is the suffering servant of the book of Isaiah. He is the Son of Man to whom would be given the kingdom and the glory as prophesied in Daniel. He is the prophet predicted by Moses in Deuteronomy. St. Matthew, by giving us the genealogy of Jesus Christ, gives us a symbol of the whole sweep of the Old Testament and the key to its proper understanding. The key is the one who is coming, and that person St. Matthew delivers for us at the end. I quote, "And Jacob, the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ." Thus there were 14 generations in all, from Abraham to David, 14 from David to the exile to Babylon, and 14 from the exile to the Christ. Matthew chapter 1 verse 1 to 17. The key to all of salvation history is Jesus Christ, the Son of David, Son of Abraham, and Redeemer of the world. The further and most decisive point of all is that our Redeemer is divine. And this, more than anything, is the crux of the matter, the point most commonly denied, and the point for which he, the Messiah, bore witness unto death. This day, December the 17th, is the first of a novena of days preparing us for the celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ, Son of David, Son of Abraham, and Son of Adam, as Luke will point out in his alternate genealogy, Luke chapter 3 verse 23 to 38. He is the new Adam, the new beginning of the human race, born again into a share in the life of God. The human race, born again into a share in the life of God. By our baptism, we are members of this new beginning. Let us resolve to make Jesus Christ our master in everything, remaining deeply united to him in friendship and obedience, and growing constantly in the life of God which he has come to share with us. Let our celebration of Christmas be a new beginning of this for us.